Hello everyone, welcome to the Desolation Sounds Podcast. My name is Stephen Hook, and this is a podcast celebrating everything to do within the world of alternative music. Be that rock, punt, metal, or extreme metal. Sure, why not? I haven't been here a while. I decided to get sick and die. I'm mildly better now. Kind of. Okay. I had the 4 albums set up for last week, and they were going to go fine, and then I got a new housemate, so I couldn't record. Fair enough. And I felt like shit. That was the main thing. I felt like awful shit. And then I thought, it's going to basically be Halloween next week. I already had a bunch of albums set up for Halloween anyways. And I thought I could just do all of them. It would be a while to record, but I just write my notes up and I have like a massive Halloween special. And I got sick yesterday as well, so I've only been able to write 2 out of the 4, but I've got the 2 spooky ones. The 2 really weird ones. So, hopefully weird. I like them. Or did I? You'll have to wait and find out. But coming up on this week's show, we're going to be looking at Extreme Power Metal by DragonForce, Heavy Metal Rules by Steel Panther, Metal Galaxy by BABYMETAL, a quick look at a split on Venn Records by Yarraman, Other Half, Grieving and Yr Poetry, Tough Crowd by Nervus, Misery Sequence by Brutality Will Prevail, I think I got those words right, and then Necrophase by Wednesday 13. So a big old lineup today, tomorrow, depends when you hear this. We'll first look at something that got mentioned last week, but then I wasn't here. So you probably already know about this, but Slam Dunk have announced a bunch more bands for next year's show. Excuse me, it will be on the 23rd and 24th of May. Let's just go through. The second headliner is Sum 41, and alongside them is Billy Talent, The Used, Story So Far, Basement, Grayscale, and Dream State. And they've also got 2 reunion shows in the form of We Are the In Crowd and Your Demise. There's also going to be appearances from NoFX and Pennywise. I don't care about We Are the In Crowd, but I'm very, very excited the fact they've got Your Demise. Your Demise, because they're touring. It's the 10th anniversary of The Kids We Used to Be, which is their like crowning achievement. And I got into music pretty much as the buzz for that was dying off. And so I feel like I've kind of like missed out on that album a lot. I've gone back to it like in drips and drabs here and there. From what I've heard, it's a fucking incredible album. I don't know why I haven't gone all in it, but every single song I hear separately just sounds insane. And they're gearing up for their reunion tour. Hopefully that might mean a new album on top, because any wrestling fans will have the same sort of thing. When a band finishes, or when an athlete or anything you pay attention to finishes, you want the last memory you have of them to be positive, something really good. We had, The Golden Age by Your Demise, and that, at the time, I thought, wow, everyone loved Your Demise in the last album, so this must be really good too. And yeah, looking back on it, it's not the best. So you'd rather them come back, it'd be difficult to get an album on par with The Kids We Used to Be, but just something that sits above The Golden Age, because yeah, it really wasn't a very good album to finish on. For wrestling fans, think of Goldberg. He came back, had that really shitty match with Undertaker, came back, had a good match with Dolph Ziggler. Shawn Michaels' final match was that shitty tag team match, and no one wants his legacy to end on that. He wants him to have, or people want him to have a match with Johnny Gargano or AJ Styles or Daniel Bryan. So, one last really great match. Never wrestle ever again, please. So, it's pretty comparable, I'd say. I think Sum 41 getting second headliner, or being the second headliner, is fantastic for them. I think like the comeback and the restoration story of Derek Whibley is just insane. It's fantastic. I remember seeing pictures of him years and years ago and thinking that he was not long for this world. Now he's happy, he's healthy, he's writing music with Sum 41 again. They've got, I think it's Dave Batch was the guitarist. He's back in the fold. They all seem really happy right now. I didn't really listen to the last album because the bits that I heard, like the Fake You're On Death song, that wasn't that great. I think they've done an album since, haven't they? Which shows how much I pay attention to Sum 41 these days. But the fact they are still touring and they are now doing well for themselves again. It's really, really good to see. And I think either way, I imagine they will do a greatest hits show. But if they do greatest hits or this is our new album, isn't it great? I think they'll still bring in bare numbers. So really, really happy for them. Out of the new names that I've seen, the U's will be fun if they do a greatest hits melee. Billy Talent are going to be fun either way. Billy Talent are fucking insane. I always thought growing up they were like, you don't listen to them, you just have posters of them on your wall, and so I want to avoid them like the plague because I thought they were just like emo posters or poster emos. Listened to them for the first time, I think it was on Red Flag, dived in from there, and oh my god, maybe one of my favourite bands of all time. Fucking love Billy Talent. Story so far, I didn't appreciate that last album, I think Proper Dose, until more recently. At the time I thought it was very okay. It wasn't like the upbeat pop punk I was expecting. It's fucking dark as shit. And yeah, since then, it is just, the song will come on now and I'll listen to it and I'll think, man, he's just such a great lyricist. And it's just a shame that he has to go through such awful times to get there. But yeah, I think Story So Far is another great call from them. Basement is another one. That album last year before, Beside Myself. I still can't get past that first song, Disconnect. That's probably one of my favourite songs of all time. No, it might be a bit excessive, but definitely one of the favourite songs of the year. And yeah, I don't give a shit about We Are the In Crowd. The full lineup then, from bottom to top, as according to their little poster thingy. You have Grayscale, Hands Like Houses, Dream State, Bayside, Issues, Ice Nine Kills, Knuckle Puck, Your Demise, We Are the In Crowd, 4 Year Strong, Motion City Soundtrack, Basement, The Wonder Years, Mayday Parade, The Story So Far, The U's, State Champs, Pennywise, Billy Talent, NoFX, Don Broco, and Sum 41 to headline Slam Funk? They should definitely call it Slam Funk. Slam Dunk Festival 2020. It's shaping up to be really fucking good. I actually kind of hope I can really go to that. Nothing happens in May. Nothing happens at the end of May. Yeah, we'll try and do that. I have a friend who is from Leeds, and she's still pissed off by the fact they moved it out of the uni, so I don't know what that means to me because I haven't been there before, but oh well. Let's get into album review, shall we? We'll start with Extreme Power Metal by DragonForce. It is album number 8 for them. They're from London. Don't know why they like that. And obviously, I think everyone by now knows the kind of music DragonForce will be doing. It is extreme power metal. It's very, very quick, very, very speedy power metal. It is their 4th album with their vocalist Mark Hudson. Their first album without Vadim Pruzhinov. He was replaced in the studio on keyboards by Cohen Janssen from Epica. And it's also going to be their final album with Frederic Leclerc on bass. He has gone on to join Creator in a really, really interesting, but really, really cool, I was going to say divergent, but I don't know if that's the right word. You got a lot of shit for, well, Creator especially got a lot of shit for hiring a power metal guy. And it's fucking dumb. Just, he's worried about like them being too melodic now or whatever. If you heard DragonForce, Jesus Christ, they had to do a live album to prove that they can play that fast. For fuck's sake. But on the whole, it must be quite weird it must be quite weird for DragonForce these days. I feel like in general, people still will recognise them from, like, they're DragonForce from Guitar Hero, and they'll only really associate them with the Zippy Third days. And they're 4 albums in with Mark Hudson now. I think that's the exact same as what they did with Thart back in the day. I really hope that's how you pronounce his last name, Thart. Because it's Hart with an extra T. I don't know. And with Hudson, DragonForce do have a slightly more refined sound. They're not like mad widdly anymore, the same way like Through the Fire and Flames where Ultra Beatdown was. And I feel like while they still shred, they kind of keep more with like a classic power metal sound. And I feel like through that, they have lost a bit of their momentum. I liked Maximum Overload, but it was still a big shift in their play style. A lot of people really liked Reaching into Infinity. That's one that I missed. But everyone kept saying it's starting to get back to what made them popular back in the day. It was never quite there. This, though, Extreme Power Metal, I honestly think is their strongest album since those Guitar Hero days. I had a quick scan through of Reaching into Infinity, and obviously Maximum Overload's been out for a few years now. And the Power Within I listened to as well. This just trumps them all. A lot of the self-aware silliness is back in DragonForce. The album art is ridiculous. The music video to Highway to Oblivion, which was the lead single that they used. And there is more of that classic shred from Herman Lee and Sam Topman. There's a fucking butt ton of cheese in it. Like, on Heart Demolition, you've got the lyric, "I don't want to be another victim of love." That is just 80s silliness. It's daft. It's absolutely daft. But that was what made them so popular. They were very aware of how... What's the word? They were just very aware of how, like, out there it was compared to traditional power metal. They were allowing themselves to have fun. They're not like a Manowar kind of band who are very astutely, this is what power metal is. It is like broad swords and hairy chests and that sort of thing. They knew what kind of music they wanted to play, but just didn't want to take it to those extremes. And it's got a fucking cover of Celine Dion at the end of this album, which weirdly works and is actually fucking great, but it still exists. You know, I thought when they did Ring of Fire back on Maximum Overload was daft. This is just fucking... I got such a dumb grin listening to that. I must have looked like a right Burke walking down the road. I honestly think Mark sounds the best he's ever sounded, and I feel like he gets that accolade every single album since he's joined the band. And I think that just speaks volume about him. He is a constantly evolving vocalist and just, constantly just adds to his repertoire, and he hits every album that comes out. I'm dying of orange juice. Every album that comes out, he pushes himself further and further, and he always sounds so crisp. He never really sounds like he's warbling or struggling. He just sounds peak all times. Mark and DragonForce hold the basis of one of my favourite stories of music that I've heard. I think I heard it on Metal Hammer podcast years ago. And when Zippy left DragonForce, this was obviously back in the day, I think 2011 he left, something like that. When he left back in the day, obviously did the auditions and etc. They ended up going with Mark, and they had their shows planned. They had a couple of dates. I don't know if they were headline or not, but still pretty big venues, that kind of thing. And they had Mark, and they were like, it was about a month prior, I think, just so that they could do a bit of rehearsals with Mark and that kind of thing. And someone made mention of the kind of venues they'd be working on. It might even be... There's some weird ducks flying overhead. It might even be Mark himself, and just said, what kind of audiences are we dealing with for this tour? And whoever it was saying about upwards of like at least 5,000, probably like between 5,000 and 10,000 a night. Why? And Mark was still finishing off his dates with his previous band, who were doing like 200 cap venues. So you had Mark going from like 200 to like multiple thousands of people to perform in front of, and they had to very quietly try and announce some warm-up shows just so Mark didn't absolutely shit himself when he got on stage. And I think I've always enjoyed that story. I think it's fucking great. The fact that it was complete oversight that they had, and then had to very quickly fix it because, yeah, it's a bit different performing in front of like 200 people to then a few thousand. So I really like the story. Fuck you. On keyboards, you got, like I said, you got Koen Jansen from Epica. I think he does a fucking brilliant job on here. He puts in very DragonForce-like injections here and there. You look at songs like Cosmic Power, The Infinite Shred Machine. Fucking great name for a song. Troopers of the Stars, In Skyforged Dreams, and Heart Demolition. It's hard to describe, but like if you've listened to DragonForce over the years, you'll hear when they're like doing their riffs on guitar and doing the widdlies, you'll just hear like a little licks on keyboard just here and there. It's not like a very basic kind of keyboardist and power metal where you just sort of play like an overlay over the top of what everyone else is doing. They allow the keyboardist to have, which is previously Vadim, they allow them to have a bit of personality, to have their own little licks and their own little riffs here and there. And Cohen is set into that. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Cohen or Cone. I really hope, well, he has just properly picked up on that and done exactly what DragonForce has been doing on keyboards that entire time. He's set into that role super, super well. And like the whole album has a very AOR rock kind of vibe to it with those searing synth lines that he adds in as well. And yeah, he just does such a great job of that and adds to that AOR vibe so well. And yeah, a few songs, or a few times listened to it, I managed to like just single out the keyboards and just fucking hell. You're not meant to make keyboards cool. They're not, no, stop it. Overall, whether it is the AOR melodies or Mark sounding like a thunderstorm of fuck, or Sam and Herman just up in their like shred game, extreme power metal has so much character. A few weeks ago when I was talking about the Paladin album, I said then there is a decided lack of character on the album, which this is power metal. It's meant to be bombastic and ridiculous and just a little bit silly. And it didn't really have any of that. I just felt like it was quite, just there. This, though, they are more than happy to take the piss out themselves because they know they can back up anything they claim. Really, really think this is a great album. Probably the best since like Ultra Beatdown, that sort of time. And definitely the best album they've done with Mark. It is Extreme Power Metal. It's the 8th album by widdly, I'm going to keep using that term, widdly Power Metal Titans DragonForce. Do go find it. It is fucking brilliant. Right, on to then the second album for this week. It is Heavy Metal Rules by Steel Panther. It is their 5th album from the LA, California. I don't know why I said it like that. They're from LA, basically. And they do a lot of shows in Vegas. If you do not know the joke of Steel Panther now, they're like a glam metal parody band. Basically, they've taken all like the daft stereotypes from the 80s sex, drugs, and rock and roll era, glam metal, and just boosted it all the way up to now. It is just stonking redonkulous. And yeah, some of the greatest hits include Death to All But Metal, Bukkake Tears, 13 Goes in a Row, Pie Like Tomorrow's the End of the World, Supersonic Sex Machine. The core lyric base is just metal, making sure metal's alive. Taking too many notes from Manowar, I think. I always pick on Manowar, it's sad. Boobs, pussy, sex, not having all those things at the same time. A standard, eclectic, drugs, also drugs, many, many drugs. Just a standard kind of fare for what was normal in the 80s. And at their peak, Steel Panther were fucking incredible. Balls Out and All You Can Eat were just chock full of absolute bangers. I even heard them considered download festival headliners amongst those two albums. That was a take from Amit Sharma, now of, I believe it's at Kerrang. This was back in his Metal Hammer days, but yeah. Looking back, well, back then I thought, nah, that's silly Amit. But looking back, those songs and the kind of audiences that would flock to download, because every time Steel Panther download, everyone I know pretty much flocks to them because they're fantastic. Don't know if that's because of the music or the boobs, but it's a 50-50 affair. And yeah, they were, like I said, at these albums, they were fucking great. The jokes weren't boring. The jokes were funny for a start. The music was insane. Michael Starr sounded incredible over the top. And then Lower the Bar came out. And Lower the Bar is where things just took a turn. A lot of the jokes just weren't funny anymore. And the riffs felt, really, really flat. It was such a sudden thing where the songwriting just fell apart and it just didn't feel like Steel Panther anymore. It felt like someone trying to be Steel Panther, like a parody of a parody, and that just was shit. I really, really didn't like Lower the Bar. Oh, honestly, my favourite song from that album is their cover of She's Tight by Cheap Trick. And in between the Wasp song, which I will talk about in a bit on Wednesday 13, and that song by Cheap Trick, the fucking 80s were dirty bastards, weren't they? Ow, just fucking twatted the table with my finger. So with Lower the Bar then, it was a point where, well, leading up to Heavy Metal Rules, was it a misstep or was it a signal that Steel Panther kind of run its course? For one part, the music is a lot better. They at their core, they are always going to be a comedy or a parody kind of band. And it is ridiculous the level of music in which they can play. The riffs are just so much better now. Almost on par to the days of Balls Out and All You Can Eat. General songwriting is better, but still not quite perfect. There's a lot of really good guitar parts from Satchel on Fuck Everybody, but the arrangement of these songs is just really, really poor. It feels very cluttered, and it feels like they're trying to put too many of these riffs all in one song instead of just like going ahead with one, or like a couple, if that makes sense. All I want to do is fuck myself tonight. No, it's not. That's not what's called. All I want to do is fuck myself tonight. Yeah, that's what I said. Fuck you, me. That's one of the few songs that are properly put together really well. Much in the same vein as their older stuff. Michael continues to sound incredible. Like I said, the level and the standard of notes that he can hit and hit them consistently is just insane. But even now, as much as he can hit those high notes and he doesn't really sound like he's faltering at all, he still sounds like he spits out the word fuck. Like, almost as if he's still like, oh, I'm not supposed to say this word on music. It's just, there's an extra emphasis, especially on the All I Want to Do Is Fuck Myself Tonight. It just feels like it's that word more than anything. This is a band, that frequently spoke about pussy in pretty much every album they've done. Fuck, though, always seems to be the word that seems to like spat out at you. I just don't know if that's because it's of the word or it's a Rudy or what. But it's a weird one. You notice that, for me at least, I notice that word more than anything else on their band. And now that I've noticed it on here, I keep noticing it on their back catalogue as well. Yeah, it's just odd one, that. And so musically, yeah, it is a lot better. And vocally, Michael does still sound great. Lyrically, though, is when it bit falters, and that's where it all kind of comes apart for what Steel Panther want to do. I do not know what it is that's different, because they're still singing about the same kind of stuff, tits, boobs, ass, sex, drugs, heavy metal, pussy, boobs. It's just everything that they've always sung about. However, it's just different. They seem to be lacking some kind of punchline that made the first three albums so entertaining, and that the first three albums had in abundance. It's still ridiculous debauchery, but something is missing, and I cannot for the life of me figure it out. Maybe it's just the joke has run its course and it's all a bit boring now. Like, you can only say for so long, boobs, they're kind of fun. It's just... And there's a lot of negative reviews that have gone in on the lyrics, like misogynistic, they're bullish. And there is certainly grounds for that argument. I'm not saying that. Especially with like today's world, they're not entitled to have complaints about that kind of lyrical content. But on ultimateguitar.com, I'll try it again. ultimateguitar.com, there is a reviewer called Travis Lausch. I really hope I got his name right. And he came up with a really great point by saying, well, his quote is, when taken as a parody of 80s hair metal with tongue firm and patterned in cheek, they actually come off as quite entertaining. And that, for me, is what Steel Panther are and always have been. They are a parody and a joke on 80s sex, drug, and rock and roll lifestyle. If you don't like the joke, obviously stop. Just you're not being forced to stick around for it. Imagine if it's any other comedian in any form of comedy. If you don't like them, you won't listen to them. I don't like Michael McIntyre's comedy that much anymore, so I just don't watch him anymore. And it's the same thing for this. If you don't like how Heavy Metal Rules portrays women, I feel like you've kind of missed the joke of Steel Panther. If they came out in an interview, like out of costume and out of context of Steel Panther, and were saying these sort of things and meant it legitimately, then yeah, it'd be a bit weird to listen to them. But this is a parody and a piss take of everything 80s hair metal did. It's so annoying to people that Mötley Crüe, especially fucking Vince Neil and Tommy Lee, are both after blood against Steel Panther because they just feel like they're, I don't know, fucking copyright or some bollocks. But yeah, it's just a daft take if you want to criticize their lyrical theme. But if you're like me, the jokes just aren't working anymore. I feel like that's much more of a valid complaint. But, it might just be, I'm just used to the Steel Panther shtick by now. If this is your first album, give it a go. It might be different, let us know. And it's called Heavy Metal Rules. It is what number is it? The 5th album from Steel Panther. And yeah, very, very riff, modern production, glam metal. And yeah, once upon a time, they were fantastic. For me, just not anymore. And like I said, I can't accurately put it out, but if it's because you don't like the jokes they say about women, then stop, because their comedy isn't for you. You got other comedy bands. Listen to The Hell if you like music and comedy. They just call you a cunt all day. That's really fun. On to then album number 3 for this week. It is, in fact, album number 3 for the band themselves. It's a band, of course, BABYMETAL, everyone's favourite kawaii metal band. If they're not your favourite, you all don't know nothing. The album's called Metal Galaxy, and obviously they're from Tokyo, because where else would this kind of shit come from? It's their first album without one of the secondary vocalists, Yui Metal. And it is also the follow-up to the album Metal Resistance, which in my opinion set in stone that BABYMETAL were more than just a viral sensation that did cutesy J-pop with chugga chugga mellow death. I thought Metal Resistance was fucking incredible. The way they blended like heavy metal, melodic death, a little bit of like new metal in there, pop, J-pop, hip-hop. Excuse me. I honestly still adore that album. It was really, really... I can't think off the top of my head if I put it in my end of decade list for like albums of the decade, but it was certainly spoken about. And when I say spoken about, I mean an internal monologue. But still, that's the whole point of this, isn't it? That it's not just a phase, mom, kind of thing. It totally continues into Metal Galaxy. It is a familiar BABYMETAL formula of that bone rattling. There we go. Mellow death with that treacle sweet J-pop, and it still holds up incredibly well. But as with Metal Resistance, Metal Galaxy adds even more again. The guitars on this album have this filthy gent tone to them. You know, think of Within the Ruins, Born of Osiris, Veil of Maya, that kind of thing. The more heavier end of that gent scene, or the metalcore gent scene. You know, you know. There's like a weird, I think it's like Central Asian, we're gonna say, instrumentation on Shanty Shanty Shanty, which was a little bit odd. Like, feel free to like expand and like do stuff with the sound, but for me that was just a little bit on the odd side. Papaya sounds a bit like a tribute to Skindred, which, considering the last time Skindred and BABYMETAL interacted, was pretty uncomfortable. Brand New Day sounds more like an Issue song than Issues do right now, and I really, really do love the little pop samples throughout the album. You've got little finger snaps on Brand New Day. You've got like whoops on Da Da Dance. They're so fucking dumb, but I love them. I love them so much. And there's a plethora of guest appearances too. You've got Polyphia guitarists Timothy Ensign and Scott LePage, or LePage, don't know how to pronounce that. They were on the Brand New Day song, so they might be trying to steal Issues gerbs. Sabaton vocalist Joachim Broden. Why do I feel like I butchered that? And it's probably one of the easy names to say. You got a Thai rapper called F Hero, a Japanese singer-songwriter called Tak Matsumoto, and Arch Enemy vocalist Alyssa White Glutz. Again, not quite sure. I wish I knew how to speak. And I honestly feel like they do learn a lot from having these guests in. When you had Herman Lee and Sam Totman from DragonForce come in on Road to Resistance, on Metal Resistance, they obviously contribute to the album, contribute to the song, but now there's some decidedly DragonForce-like guitar parts on this album. And it sounds like they can huge inspiration to how they write and how they incorporate more like shredding kind of stuff in amongst just like standardized song structure, like verse chorus. Arcadia and Night Night Burn were the two songs that really did this the most. And Christ knows what other Viking folk hybrid Omagini with Joachim Broden from Sabaton is. But good goddamn, they sound like they're having a great time. I just don't fucking know what's happening. I tried describing it to a friend of mine and just doing that die, and I got a lot of weird looks, strangely enough. Metal Galaxy is a beautiful mess of styles and sounds, and it is a mess. You just don't know what they're doing next. It's fucking ridiculous, but for some reason it's a really entertaining level of ridiculous. Excuse me. What Poppy's doing now, and what everyone's like exploding about Poppy, 100% she got all that kind of thing from BABYMETAL. She's just adding a bit more weird to it, whereas these girls just are unreal because like from what I've heard how corporate Japanese bands and pop bands are made. It's hard to tell what's genuine and what's not when it comes to not Yui, she's the one that's gone. Sue and Moa Metal, but my god, if it's not genuine and they really really like what's that band? Is it B24, E24, whatever that silly K-pop band is? If they like all that sort of shit and they hate metal, then they fucking hide it really well because they just do incredible things on this album. It will infect your mind just like pop, and it'll ache your spine just like metal. That's what I've written down. I felt really proud of that when I wrote it down. Saying out loud, less so. And in terms of the overall sound from the two vocalists, you'll never guess that they are a vocalist down. They layer each other fantastically. Sue Metal still sounds just insane. She doesn't sound like she's changed at all. Bearing in mind, like, she's had all of puberty to go through since that first BABYMETAL album came out. She sounds fucking incredible. In fact, she might be even getting... Well, she probably will be getting better because now she's got training to go alongside her training. Like, actual training. That makes sense. I'm still kind of weary in the head. I'm drinking lots of orange juice, though. And before finishing up, one last shout out to the song Kagaru. And I really hope I pronounce that right again, because good goddamn, that song is fucking great. I went back to it a lot. It is hugely catchy in just the most borderline infuriating kind of way. And I'm not quite sure if it's because it really shows off Sue Metal on her own, but just like the melodies, both vocally and musically, are just Italian hand kissing. That's how good it is. It's a fucking great song. If nothing else, go listen to Kagaru. There's also a song, what's it called again? It wasn't on the international release, it's on the Japan only. Oh, it's BXMXC. It is this like angry industrial song that sounds nothing like I've heard BABYMETAL do so far. Find that, it's on YouTube. It is just, oh my god, weirdly catchy despite it being like very aggressive industrial. Not quite to the levels obviously of like Author and Pain, but sort of like lo-fi industrial heartbeat sort of stuff. Totally weird, totally fun. Go listen to that. But just as a whole, I love this album. I love BABYMETAL. I know I shouldn't. I'm meant to be like broody and goth and emo and all that sort of crap, but goddamn, they're so much fun. They're like my one pass, and I love it. I love it. Do go check it out. It's the third album from BABYMETAL. It's called Metal Galaxy. Just don't call it kawaii. It's kawaii. That triggers a lot of Japanese people. It triggers anyone. It triggers a lot of weebs as well. Which, I know what you're thinking. That's a good reason to do it if it's going to trigger weebs. But you got to think of the people, man. You got to think of the Japanese people. Most of them are pretty nice people. But, you know, make fun of weebs. I'm encouraging that. That's fine. On to then, a little mini one. A little, a mini split EP thing. It's going to be, well, it has been released on Venn Records. It is a split by Yarraman, Other Half, Grieving and Yr Poetry. It is 4 different sides of the punk spectrum, kind of. And I'll go through each song individually because there's only one song per band. And it just seems easy enough just going through them one at a time because they're not all the same. We'll start with Yarraman then. They are from London. The song they've contributed is a song called Merriest. They are made up of ex-members of Crash of Rhinos, and it is their debut release. They are combining like a classic punk rock kind of sound with like a delicate indie vibe kind of thing to it. Excuse me. And when I was listening, to be fair, listen to all 4 of these acts, I got a lot of Tony Hawk's Underground vibes coming off of it from all 4. They could easily, if they ever made Tony Hawk's Underground, which please fucking do, easily these 4 songs could sit there. And I found myself comparing them to a lot of those kind of bands. So for Yarraman, I kind of found it somewhere like a cross between Fear and Violet Femmes, or Violet Femmes, I'm going to say, which I thought was a fun thought in my head, but that's just me. So yeah, that was Yarraman. They've got the song Merriest. Next, you had the band Other Half, and they've got the song Heads Go Soft. They're from Norwich, and they are made up of former members of Ducking Punches and Maths. We all like Maths. I know I do. More of a classic punk kind of sound, but it's a bit more straight edge. Straight edge? Fucking hell. It's a bit more straightforward, is what I'm meant to say. A very classic punk kind of sound, and it sounds like the vocalist is backed by Courtney Barnett, the Australian indie rock singer-songwriter, and it is more co-singing or co-singer than backing. It's just, I really enjoyed the fact that it was like a dual overlapping kind of vocal style, which, top of my head, I really can't think of many bands who kind of do that kind of thing, where it is two going out at the same time instead of just like one, then one, then one, then one, then one. Yeah, I really liked it for that kind of reason. And I feel bad, I'm really blasting through these, but there's not only so much you can say about a song each. From Cambridge then, we then had Grieving with their song Pilot. They are made up of former members of the Tupolev Ghost. Really hope I got that right. I think this might be my potential favourite song. No disrespect to the other lads and lass. Yeah, everyone has their preferences. It's ever so slightly garage punk feel to it all on the verses, and it then explodes in the choruses in a bit of a post-hardcore feel to it too. I'm just going to move straight on. Sorry guys, but your song was a better one. But I can't. And then last song was Your Poetry. I think it's called Your Poetry because I just spelled YR. There might be some cryptic thing that I don't know about, but I wasn't invited. Your Poetry has a song You Can't Hurry Love. They're from Birmingham and made up of former members of Johnny Foreigner, which I feel like I've recognised that name, but I don't know why. Your Poetry reminded me a lot of The Addicts. Again, I spent a lot of time comparing this to Tony Hawk Underground stuff, but a lot of the Addicts, they did, if you are familiar with the games, they did Viva la Revolution. Yep. Obviously, the Addicts are a cult name in the punk rock world on their own. Yeah, Your Poetry is a bit more of a drawn back kind of punk rock to it. They are advertised as pop punk, sorry. Personally, I wouldn't go that far with the sound. It's a lot more of a dynamic punk kind of sound. There's a melody in there, but not all the way to pop melody, if that makes sense. Yeah, on the whole, it was great. The splits like this are always a good time because you're gonna inevitably find something different on these kind of things. You're gonna find definitely something you never heard of. I hadn't heard of any of these four bands before picking it up. It's more because Venn Records made up by members of Gallows, and therefore I'm going to love it forever. And so if they put out a split, I'm probably going to give it a listen. Personally, I would have added a bit more variety in the bands that are on the split. As much as each band has their own nuances and has their own little twist on a very formative classic punk sound, I found myself constantly going back to early 80s punk comparisons. First few listens, it's really kind of difficult to discern them from each other. So if it personally, either I would have just maybe done it on 2 EPs, a song on each, or 2 songs from each band on each, and just because you get more money out of us that way. Or, just mix and match the bands. Just. But either way, if you like the old school punk kind of thing, go find this. It's on Venn Records. It streams on various things like Spotify and Bandcamp, but you can also get a very lovely bright pink LP vinyl of it with some just the weirdest artwork. But you know, small town bands like this do go try and support where you can. There is the split from Yarraman, Other Half, Grieving and Yr Poetry. It's on Venn Records. Do go find it if you like classic punk, like I said. And yeah, big up that indie thing, yo. I promise I'll never say that again. That's a lie. I probably will say that again. Album number 4? Technically 5, we're going to include this bit. But release number 5 of the week. I'm running out of breath. Fuck me. When do I need to leave for? I've got 15 minutes to get through 3 albums. Shit. Nervus, the album's called Tough Crowd. It is their 3rd band and they are from Watford. Everything seems to be coming from Watford at the moment. And they are, if you've never heard of them, but they are a very melodic punk, some would even say a indie punk kind of style. And it is the Tough Crowd is the follow-up to the very, very good Everything Dies album that came out last year before? A lot more recent than I remember it being. Nervus perhaps embodied the term punk better than any band right now. Particularly their frontwoman, M. Foster. She gets a lot of shit on Twitter for what she says in interviews, on Twitter, on record, anything really. She just gets a lot of people saying that she shouldn't be talked about, or she's wrong, or some other rubbish. And these, like, I honestly don't think, if Twitter was a thing back when, like, the early stages, like, hardcore, and you had, like, Jello Biafra, Henry Rollins, Ian McKay, like, do you not think in their youth, and they, like, grew up with Twitter and, like, social media as a thing, do you not think they'd be doing the exact same thing, and, like, mouthing off about all their politics, and all their stances on things? Most of them I'm pretty sure are doing them now anyways, but most of them are revered as gods in the world of rock and punk for doing exactly what M's doing, but M did it on the internet instead of on record, but as doing it on record as well. So it's just a daffy thing. It's just a silly thing. Lyrically, the album remains true to that thing on the post philosophy that Nervus have built over the years. Flies open the album and strikes me as somewhere between a dodgy relationship and, like, struggles with depression. And things like mental illness is mentioned quite a few times throughout the album. Obviously, this day and age, it is a big talking point, and I know it's affected, well, not personally, no, but I've heard whole tales, and from reading Nervus and M's Twitter feeds, mental illness is something that the band have gone through in various different guises. And the main one for me was, for talking about mental illness, was the song Fake. And it's like a crushing battle between, lyrically, anxiety versus conformity, and then the stress that conformity then gives you to then leads into anxiety. Really, really, like, difficult, but not difficult because it's rubbish, difficult because it is just very, very personal. The biggest lyrical power play that the band has comes when they start getting political. And it isn't just a run-of-the-mill politicals. Politicians are bad sort of thing. It is, at times, it feels like Tough Crowd is trying to start some kind of coup. You got songs like Piss and Where'd You Go. They rile up by just saying how shit things are, because, as a reminder, things are really, really shit right now. And then songs like The Inconvenient Truth, Engulf You, and They Don't come in, and they're just, oh my god, they're just so aggressive. They have no chill. They are venomous in their attacks against the government and police and everything in between, and everything outside of it. They just want to attack everything. And yeah, a lot of it's just, like, lyrically very brutal, in the same way the classic punk bands were back in the day. But again, they were welcoming back then. I don't know what's happened now. And to cap it all off, songs like Burn and No Nation act as almost like a call to arms for action by the people. And the songs on the track list reads like a hymn sheet for a new age revolution. It's quite astounding, actually. Musically, it is so juxtaposed with that vibrant power pop indie punk kind of thing, with those like aggressive lyrics. It's almost a Weezer-like Trojan horse. They could easily come in and scream and shout the message, and it hit the same groups of people that every political punk band that has ever been has been hitting for years. Like, you go from like all the way back from like the Dead Kennedys and Black Flag to like modern day Petrol Girls and that kind of thing. Petrol Girls obviously have like a bit more of a shouty vocalist, so that anarcho punk scene is going to flock to that. Whereas with this having like a more indie hue to it all, you are going to get a broader audience come into it and then start picking up little lyrics here and there, and then just start like believing, dissecting, like investigating everything that's being said in the album. And it's going to entice and expand their audience way better than anything else can, or any other band could. Even on like the heavier songs like Flies or Piss, they're drenched in harmonizing and gang vocals and catchy little vocal hooks that really cleverly feed their message to the listener. Excuse me. And like as a side one, I love the indie, like the floaty indie 80s vibe on Engulf You. That's probably my favourite song on the album, I won't lie. The challenge for this album will be to like aim at the people who don't, well, for the people who don't agree with the band's politics. There is that ever-growing argument of separating the music from the artist, and it is hard. It is so difficult because you need your own morals on how much you're going to stand up for a message or a meaning against what you enjoy from the musician. Like, there's pretty much a blanket ban on lost profits, and for very good reason, not comparing those situations at all. And then when the wave of emo bands came out, you had some people who were like, when the emo bands found out that they were harassing younger fans, you still had people who were still listening. Like, people still listen to the brand new album and were considering it like albums of the year. When, you know, a couple of years ago, they were saying that you have to, what a person does is directly affected by what they do outside of music, but what is affected inside of music. So it is just depending on what line that is for you. For like example, I don't listen to Lost Prophets anymore. I've never listened to Brand New, and as much as I was keen to listen to the new album, as soon as it all kicked off, I was like, nope. And it is difficult to find out. Like, I don't agree with a lot of the political statements said on this album. Like, They Don't, for example. If M has had a grievance with the police, or she knows someone who has, or just in general just doesn't get a good vibe for them, that is M's opinion. That's not an opinion that I'm going to, if I knew her in real life, that's not an opinion I'm going to break off of her from, if that makes sense. It's, for me, morally, that's not too extreme. I don't like the song because of it, and I'll just stop listening to the song. That's it. I'll just move on. I will say the chord progression is the chord progression on the song, I forgot, it's delicious. And the chorus, take out what the lyrics actually are and just listen to the tune of it. It's bright and cheery and it's catching as fuck, but I won't listen to it because, you know, I don't agree with the lyrics. But because it's so catchy, even though I don't agree with it, that shows off how good a songwriter M is and how good Nervus are, because I want to listen to it because of musically, but you get what I'm trying to say? I don't know why. It's like, it is difficult. It's all down to the listener and trying to figure out where their moral compass sits and whether or not they want to go through it, even though they don't believe in it politically, compared to what they want from it musically. And just for like They Don't in particular, if it was about anything else, I'd be all over it and saying that's like probably one of the best songs on the album. But you know, I just don't like it for what it says, so I move on. Agrees with that statement, so she put the song. I'm sure if I ever met her in person, and we would have a discussion, say like why I don't agree with it, why she does agree with it, like discussions like adults do. But you know, that's for a world which doesn't exist right now. But you know, it's difficult. It is. I've rambled a lot. I'm aware of it. Bear in mind, I've got a blitz through these last 2 albums now. Joy for me. Make up your own mind. It is always down to the listener. If you like very adverse and very on the nose political albums, you'll be hard pressed to find something more than Tough Crowd. It's the 3rd album from Nervus. Do go check it out. And it, like I said, it's definitely got that like Weezer effect to it, where you go in and you listen to it music and you think, man, this is great, this is so happy, it's so chill, and then you read upon the lyrics and you go, but that might be what you're into. Man, do I feel like I haven't got time for this. Excuse me, especially if I keep coughing. Brutality Will Prevail is our next album, and it's the 6th album from the Cardiff-based hardcore mob. The album is called Misery Sequence. That part's important. And Brutality Will Prevail always been known for their darker, gloomier approach to hardcore. They have really doubled down on it, on like the sludgy, doomy addition to their sound on their last album, 2017's In Dark Places. That kind of thing has continued into Misery Sequence, and I think it's firmly sat them in that beatdown hardcore realm alongside the likes of Knock Loose, Kublai Khan, Earth Crisis, and that ilk. Title track kicks off the album. It's really, really interesting mix already of the Brutality Will Prevail hardcore with their recent foray into like a more doomy kind of sound. That classic hardcore is there, but there's this like guitar line that comes in, and it adds an atmosphere of dread to the sound. It's unreal. It's like a haunting siren that just lingers in the back, and it is fucking terrifying. I'm really glad this was meant to be one of like the Halloween albums. So this and the Wednesday 13 album were 2 of the 4 that was going to be all spooky, and this is why, because there is like a death siren that goes the entire way through the album. And on the instrumental track Twisting the Knife, it is 2 minutes of them showing that part of the sound off, and literally they are showing off, stop it lads, you're making us all look bad. And then it leads into Deny the Truth very, very effortlessly, and it continues into that, continues into End of Me Too. It's excuse me, it's throughout the album, but no other song does it better than Breathless. Breathless has a guest vocalist on it. It's a young lady called Toniko Brooker. She, as far as I'm aware, she's not part of any sort of musical act or artist or anything like that. She doesn't sing professionally. I believe she's a booker for like an indie label. And everything Chelsea Wolfe tried to do on His Spun, Co has done it in one song. It is frighteningly haunting, yet beautifully brutal. It's an absolute rager of a song. It is. The music is that musically is dominated by that leering siren, but the sound that Ash and Craig get, who are the bassist and drummer respectively, I believe, they carry the song between them, adding like as much as like it's all searing in the back, and you've got Tony like crooning over the top. They still add that like hardcore underbelly, and Breathless remains as a fucking excellent song on the album. That like siren thing, I kind of want to describe it as that post-rock guitar kind of thing, but it's being played down like a really old radio, so it's all like gritty and bitterly and that kind of thing. So that's what gives it that like really scary, haunting feel to it all. Elsewhere, the rest of the guitar work is absolutely great. There are some great riffs on tracks like Slither, the title track, the bitter end. And I think overall, Brutality Will Prevail have done a pretty good job on this. It's hard to make beatdown hardcore for me. Like, I didn't really get the Knocked Loose album. I think it's very easy to make beatdown hardcore sound one-dimensional. And because the bands that I've seen associated with that label, it's just very samey throughout. I think the doomy atmospherics have really helped Misery Sequence stand out from the pack, and this like gothic doom tinge beatdown, because the riffs, like I said, the riffs are fucking insane, and that actual layer, I think, like I said, will set it apart from the pack. It will bring in the beatdown fans, and I think it will bring in a wider audience from that, because it is like a slight twist on a like already established genre, and like people go for that shit all the time. I know I do. The album's called Misery Sequence. It's by Brutality Will Prevail, UK hardcore at its finest. Do go check it out. I wish I had more to say, but again, as much as it is good for a beatdown hardcore album, it's still beatdown hardcore, and I find it quite difficult at times. On to the last album, and then I gotta go to work. It is Necrophase. I've actually been looking forward to this for a while. The album is by Wednesday 13. It is his 8th album from the Lexington, North Carolina native, and he is known for his horror punk. And let's face it, it doesn't get much more Halloween than Wednesday 13. And it rhymed, I didn't realise. His particular blend of horror punk, he blends it with heavy metal and like B-movie synths, kind of like you get like the old horror films back in the day. And for this album, he's aligned himself with some well-known names in spook. I've described them. You've got Alice Cooper, everyone knows Mr. Cooper, Christina Scabia from Lacuna Coil, almost forgot then, Alexi Laiho from Children of Bodom, and Jeff Clayton, who is a jazz musician. He's worked with the likes of Sinatra and B.B. King, and what's more terrifying than jazz? That's what I'm saying. At first listen, the title track opener is a perfectly serviceable song. However, well, I don't go to however just yet. I jumped the gun. Alice Cooper's on there. He's got like a spoken word intro, and then the riffs that are on the song make it one of the heavier songs on the album. Like, definitely edges more into that metal territory than does the punk. But when you get through the rest of the album, however, get through the rest of the album, and there are songs on there that have Wednesday 13 at a songwriting best. He blends those riffs, he blends the pace and those synths really well together, and that sets a very key divide in the album. So for me, Bring Your Own Blood is when the album properly starts. There's some dorky spoken word intro, and I'll get onto lyrics in a bit. And then from there it goes into like this Rammstein-like synth line, and then quickly descends into like a Marilyn Manson-esque eruption when Wednesday cuts in with all the rest of the band as well. And there's like a checklist of spooky references in the lyrics, which teeters on the ridiculous, but it's ultimately quite catchy. And Bring Your Own Blood is one of like the better songs from the album. But that is the recurring theme. The lyrics on this album are fucking bonkers at time. And I've got a couple. Is this life or is this misery? Because I can't tell the difference. It's all the same to me. Sounds like a really dorky rip-off of Bohemian Rhapsody, but never mind. You're not as bad as people say. Well, in fact, now you're much worse. I'm gonna try that again. Why can't I read? You're not as bad as people say. when in fact, now you're much worse. You fell out the stupid tree and you landed fucking head first. That's a sin. That's an abomination against the lyrical gods. Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. It's not even fun bad. It's just awful. And I really want to rip on the end song, Animal, that he did with Leho from Children of Bodom. But apparently it's a cover of a Wasp song, which is what I was saying earlier with the Steel Panther review. It's shit lyrically, but I can't diss Wednesday 13 for that because it's not his fault. But goddamn, that song was awful. I think it opens with "I got pictures of naked ladies." And like, okay, you do you, bro. But like I said before, there is a clear gap in the album's quality. When it's bad, it's not. It's more of a. It's bland. It's nothing there to really latch onto. It's just they exist. The songs exist, and that's about it. When it's good though, when it's at its peak, there are some morbidly great songs on this album. Monster with Christina Scabbia uses her vocals fantastically well. It's such an easy precedent, and I'm pretty sure it's been used 100 times, where you'll get a female vocalist, especially when it's in like the gothic symphonic sort of world, where you'll have like the heavy, then you have this one like beautifully elaborate bit where they can show off how well they can sing. And then it goes back to like the crushing heavy sort of malarkey. With this though, she's integrated with Wednesday vocally so well. She's not got her own part. She's singing alongside him and like backing him up, and it sounds insanely good. The riff as well, I think, gives it more of a gothic feel than any of the synth on the album. It is like a high-end sort of lick kind of thing. I don't know if it's riff or lick. I've never been good enough to figure out what one's which, but it opens the song. It's on the choruses. It's fucking insane, and the theme of having Christina Scabbia, a well-known gothic metal vocalist, in there with this kind of riff, it is a sublime song. Monsters is the talisman of the album. It's very, very, very good. Decompose, which was the lead single, another fantastic song. It had great use of melody on the pre-chorus. I can see why it was the lead single. Like, it just fits that mold so well. It got me interested in the album for, if nothing else. And all the shit I gave the lyrics a minute ago, I did actually really like the lyrics to Monster. They're still dumb. They're still ridiculously dumb, but a much more enjoyable kind of dumb. And I mentioned it before, Bring Your Own Blood is another really, really good song on the album as well. Towards the latter part of the album, Wednesday does seem to play around with genres and style outside the norm of what he said the album. You know, Life Will Kill Us All has distinct Alice Cooper feel to it, whereas Bury the Hatchet is more like a rock and roll kind of vibe to it. And I describe it to like Motorhead or Chrome Division, where they are quintessentially metal bands, but the songwriting, the melody and that kind of thing, very, very like rock and roll kind of feel to it all. For like at the time, when it's a good album, or when it's got good songs, this is a really fun album. It's very much a greatest hits kind of album. You've got excuse me. You've got the songs where it really, really pulls the album up, but at the same time you've got songs that really, really like weigh it down. Absolutely, you've got the ones I talked about a minute ago, so Monster, Decompose, Bring Your Own Blood, Bury the Hatchet as well. They're going to be like live staples, and they should be live staples for a while, even if he is like, what's his album 8, did I say? Yeah. I still think this was a very credible album from someone who I think like of a always under the radar when it comes to that like spooky shock rock kind of stuff. I feel like all the plaudits always go to like Rob Zombie or Ministry or that kind of thing. I first knew about Wednesday 13 when he did the Murder Dolls album, and that it's fascinated me from there. The one thing I found most fascinating thing I find by him is his vocal style. Is that his natural singing voice, or did he like have to learn to do that? Because he sounded consistent throughout the entire time. Like the first, what was the first Murder Dolls song I listened to? It was from 2002, I think. Excuse me. And then I heard "Gimme Gimme Bloodshed." That was released in 2008. You got this song in 2019. He always sounds the same. And it's like, was that your natural voice, like how Lemmy has a naturally deep voice, anyways? Did you go to a singing teacher and they taught you how to sing like that? Have you learned by yourself? What is this vocal? And how do you do it? If I tried doing something like that, I'd get like a tickle in my throat and I look like a dick. But when he's good, he's very, very good as Mr. 13. It is appropriate for this particular time of year. If you start talking about Christmas after this, I'll fucking cut you. But it's Halloween, it's spooky, it's horror, it's Wednesday 13, and his latest album, Necrophase. It is the songs I keep going on about: Monster, Decompose, Bring Your Own Blood, Bury the Hatchet, maybe Life Will Kill Us All. Go for them. They are really, really great songs. Just maybe cut out the other bits. But that will do it for this week. I've gone on for a while. I have to go to work now. But next week, definitely, I cannot wait. It's two I mentioned. Brutality Will Prevail and Wednesday 13 were 2 of 4 Halloween themed albums that I want to do. The other 2 were Mathcore in the Way of Car Bomb, which is insane, and Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, which is the most hauntingly sad album I potentially have ever heard. And that's on par with like the Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties album I listened to earlier in the year. There's also gonna be Funeral Fuck, who do doom metal. Leprous, finally gonna get around to listen to that Leprous album. They are like arty punk. And Being as an Ocean, which are renowned melodic hardcore fellas. Hopefully it'll be next week. I'm probably about to move home, so things might get weird, but hopefully you should hear from me next week. Do keep in touch. I do exist. I neglect social media a lot, but just trust me. If you send me a message, I will get back to you. I love you. I actually don't like you. But just give me something to talk to. I'm going to stop now because I'm rambling. I'm still very unwell. Enjoy your week, guys. Listen to cool music, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.